I call to order the October 2020 in-person meeting of the Media Borough Council. Please join me standing to pledge our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everyone who is joining us here this evening, whether in your home or in person, we do have a fair number of persons who are present tonight. We are in the community center. It is larger than our normal room where we assemble, and as a result, you might not be able to see the folks who are here this evening until we call them up to the front of the room. We're going to take some things out of order this evening. We have a number of men who are dressed in dark blue, and they're here for a good reason. Mr. Mayor, would you please come to the front of the room?
Good evening, everybody, and this is a very special night. I think everyone in the borough, and probably everybody in the county, knows who Jim Jeffrey is, and we're honoring him tonight on his 50 years of service to Media, Fire, and Hook and Ladder Company number 1. Jim? We rehearse. That was for Jim, right? All right, the proclamation reads, honoring James B. Jeffrey's 50 years of service to Media, Fire, and Hook and Ladder Company number 1. Whereas in 1970, Jim joined the Media, Fire, and Hook and Ladder Company, and whereas in 2020, I have to take these off because I can't see them. Whereas in 2020, 50 years from the date of joining, Jim continues to serve the fire department as a firefighter, EMT, and vice president. And whereas during his 50 years dedicated service to the citizens of Media Borough and surrounding communities, Jim has served in the offices of president, vice president, director, fire chief, deputy fire chief, assistant chief, fire captain, and EMS captain. Are there any other titles he could have had?
We also clean the trucks too.
Clean the trucks too. Whereas in addition to his 50 years of dedicated service, Jim also shares a vast knowledge and experience as an EMT instructor, fire school instructor, member of the County Critical Incident Support Team, County Major and Incident Support Team, and member and officer of the County Emergency Health and Services Council. Everybody remember all these. We're going to do a quiz later. Whereas Jim is also an important role as a family escort during National Firefighters and Memorial Weekend. And whereas in 1984, Jim, then serving as fire chief, worked with the then fire company president, Ed Gibson Jr., who's also here tonight, to develop a long-range program that ensures to this date that fire apparatus replacement is adequately funded by the Media Borough Council. And whereas Media Borough is proud to recognize Jim Jeffrey and his many years of dedicated service. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Media Borough extends its appreciation and congratulations to James B. Jeffrey, proclaimed on October 15, 2020 by me.
I would like to thank Borough Council for the recognition. It certainly has been a wonderful 50 years. It's had highs and lows, and I would urge anybody in the community to get involved and perhaps try to provide the same dedication in whatever it is. And certainly for anybody who had an interest in fire emergency medical services, these are very trying and difficult times. The numbers of people who are volunteering is diminishing dramatically and drastically. If you listen to Chief Gibson speak at times, he talks to the challenges that the borough has in terms of trying to provide adequate fire and EMS on into the next several decades. I've said to the folks as I start to get into my 70s that my ability to contribute physically is going away, but I hope that the good Lord keeps my mind working and I'll be able to contribute mentally until perhaps he takes me away. Thank you very much.
And for those of you at home who perhaps are thinking about holiday giving, I can't think of a better organization to contribute time, maybe some money, than the Media Fire Company. So please keep them in mind in the upcoming months. We also have another presentation this evening, and it is a slightly different character than the one that has just come before. Yes, I believe is it Drew Arado?
It is. I'm Drew Arado from Earth and State, here on behalf of America's First Fair Trade Town Committee. We declared the first fair trade town in the Americas in 2006.
We're top banana. Sure.
Thanks. And we are top bananas in that range. We're here to present our Fair Trade Awards, and we wanted to honor those people that are keeping fair trade in everyone's mind, and those businesses that are supporting fair trade through their purchases. And I'd like to present these awards and start with our historic award. This year is going to Free Produce Association of Friends. Receiving this award is Christy Duncan Tessmer. Let's hold this like that. She is the General Secretary of the Philadelphia Yearly Meeting, the Quaker equivalent to the Bishop of the Philadelphia Archdiocese. In 1840, the Free Produce Society of Friends organized the sale of large quantities of cotton, sugar, and other goods not produced with slave labor. In essence, they founded the first fair trade stores in the world.
Thank you. I get to say a few things, right? Yay. So, thank you so much. Quakers we disallowed slavery among friends in 1776, and that was a really good thing. Not doing something bad, that's a step. But in the 1800s, Quakers set up stores where products that were produced without slave labor could be bought, and that's a stronger step. That's about moving towards a way that the system changes. The system in which we live, the structural system changes so that we are paying attention to how we're positively doing things. That's not about having a negative impact on people or on our planet. We can't simply not do a wrong thing for our community to function. We need to live in a way that supports the ability for all life to flourish. And media, America's first fair trade town, is an exemplar of figuring out how we change our structures in that way. Because American culture now, as it was 200 years ago, it still functions at the expense of people of color and the planet, and women, and queer people. So go media go in making these changes. And it's such an honor to receive this, and I wanted to share that to honor you back. I am wearing head-to-toe fair trade clothing tonight. I didn't have dress shoes that were fair trade, so I had to go with the sneakers. The socks, the leggings, all of it. I had to buy new underwear so that I could say that entirely. So you are responsible for my having fair trade underwear. Thanks, media. I wanted to say one more thing. The fact that Quakers did what they did in 1840 with this store was really good. And it's good for us to be inspired by that, but also to learn from the places where they could have gone further. So one thing that happened is that their work in this way foundered a little bit and moved more slowly than it could have because of struggles that Quakers were having internally. We took time to argue with each other about all kinds of things. And so instead of doing the important things in the world, we were fighting with each other. That's a superhuman thing to do, and so we need to pay attention to it here. So I want to just lift that up for all of us. And thank you so much.
Beyond that, we have a couple more awards coming up. We have our Scholastic Award, which we will honor for the second time in our history. We will honor Media Providence Friends School. And receiving this award is Holly Hoffman and Shirley Wright Kamara. They work to creatively integrate fair trade into many parts of their curriculum. And along that, they'll also be receiving the, on behalf of our international award winner, they're receiving, on behalf of Senda Athletics, the makers of the highest quality soccer balls and futsalls and sports shoes made by fairly paid adults in healthy workshops and not underpaid children in sweatshops. Senda brings the fun and fairness to game. So on behalf of Media Providence Friends School for their curriculum and integrating fair trade, and on behalf of Senda Athletics, which is based in California and Pakistan, where most soccer balls are made, we'd like to thank you for your commitment, and please accept these awards on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Another important award that we give out every year is our local award. And again, this is going to be an award that we had given in years past, but their renewed energy here in media, roasting our fair trade local coffee, burlap and bean. The pure awesomeness of being 100% fair trade in their offerings of tea, coffee, and more. And it's just a wonderful place right down at the west end of town. We'd like to thank you for everything you do locally.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And last but not least, here we go. I get it out of order. We would like to thank our committee member. Zoya had no idea that we were giving our award, and we totally fooled her into holding the award without even knowing. But Zoya has been a huge part in making media a continued fair trade efforts, and working at Penn State through that. We're happy that Zoya Pavlovskovia Evans, we really appreciate your help and work and continued commitment to keeping our committee going and strong. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'd like to thank everybody and remind you to look for fair trade products throughout town and media and anywhere you go. We really appreciate media being our home, and we look forward to continuing the education and promotion of fair trade here in Media, Pennsylvania, America's first fair trade town.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you to all of the awardees. I imagine that some folks would like to move along, and why don't we take a 30 seconds or so for the room to clear, if those folks who wish to depart at this time. Why don't we move along to the approval of minutes? There's a couple of housekeeping matters. Do I hear a motion to approve the workshop meeting minutes from last month? So, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the September 3, 2020 workshop meeting minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously. Item number 2 is our council meeting minutes from last month. Do I hear a motion to approve those as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. I think that the minutes mischaracterized Mr. Robinson's comments with regard to the mask, because it seems to suggest that he agrees that, I don't think you said this, Paul, that you shouldn't charge a fine. I don't think you said that.
I said we don't charge the fine.
Yeah, but if you read the minutes, it suggests that you don't agree with charging fines. I don't think that, Karen, I don't think that's what he meant.
Okay.
So I think you should strike that section.
Will the maker of the motion amend the motion to include that change?
Amend the motion to reflect that.
And the seconder?
Yes.
All right, any other comment? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the September 2020 meeting minutes with the amendment as set forth by Councilman Williamson, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously. We no longer have anyone here to offer public privilege, common privilege of the floor, unless Marion, you.
I ain't got nothing.
Well, you do.
Oh, I do, but I'll hold it.
For those at home, the answer was she ain't got nothing. All right then, we'll move along to the interim borough manager's report. Mr. Seaman.
I have no report, Councilman.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Seaman at this time? Hearing none, we'll move along to the engineer's report. Mr. Mattson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few items. I want to report that the road program, the road resurfacing and installation of the ADA ramps is substantially complete. I had a meeting with the contractor today, and there are a few more minor items that they have to clean up. But on the whole, I think this particular contractor did a nice job with the installation of the ADA ramps and with the overall repaving. I was very satisfied. Also, pursuant to earlier this month's meeting, I did have the opportunity to stop by the Armory to visit with our friends at Trader Joe's, take a look at the building, dust off the assessments that were prepared early this year, and have a plan to move forward with the additional remediation work, restoration work, maintenance work in general for the Armory. So I want to report that I did have the opportunity to stop out there. And as of September, we did submit the Brumal required municipal separate storm sewer report to the PADEP. This is the report about what the borough does to show compliance for the Clean Water Act to protect the health of our creeks and waterways. So the borough engages in a 6-part program to make sure that we raise awareness, engage public education and outreach, practice good housekeeping measures, while also holding our developers accountable for their construction activity. So the report was prepared and submitted to the DEP on time this year. So unless there are any other questions, I did submit a written report, but it's all I got tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mattson. Are there any questions for the borough engineer at this time?
I have one. Kevin, I have occasion to talk to Beth Glassman of Providence Township, the current president of the council. I know she lives on Manchester and is therefore interested in that possible sidewalk connection there into Meaden. Is there any progress that I could discuss with her or cost estimates or anything with that regard?
I do think, Peter, we got some affirmation of the estimates that were prepared this summer. So tonight in your packets is the recommendation for award for the overall sidewalk maintenance program in town. The numbers that came back from the low bidder are consistent with the numbers we used in that estimate. So I think that the overall project range as far as dollar amounts is pretty much locked in. I think it's been affirmed as pretty solid, somewhere around $20,000 to $30,000, which is what we reported.
Thanks.
The second component was I did reach out to PennDOT. Since that section of road really stretches into Upper Providence, it's also on a state highway. It's going to be a bit of it will have to be subject to review, which means at the moment they're only going to require a 4-foot verge or dog strip area, but they may end up requiring some additional curbing. So just depending on where the chips fall with PennDOT is the only uncertain thing. Other than that, it's pretty much a straightforward connection. This is a section of sidewalk between Media and Upper Providence. It's about 150 feet long. And for whatever reason, over the long history of the development between the two communities, the sidewalk is just never installed. So someone would be walking on sidewalk in Media, and then there's sort of a dangerous path as you walk into Upper Providence. And then Upper Providence, over the last 10 or 15 years, has done some pretty good connectivity all the way down to the Pennsylvania East. So I think I was happy with the numbers that came back that are from what I
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much.
Kevin, I do have a question for you. Can we expect to see any remediation of the road surfaces that were disturbed through the Aqua pipeline improvement project?
There are two contractors. The first set of contractors were responsible for the pipes. And the second contractor has not provided me with their timetable. I did connect with them to find out when they will be repaving the streets. So Aqua uses two different teams, but the moment that I get more clarity on that one, I'll be sure to provide it to the staff. Either post to the website or provide it to your attention.
Is the expectation that that work will be done before the bad weather sets in?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move along then to the solicitor report. Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do not have anything to report tonight.
Does any member of council have any questions for Mr. Scott at this time? Hearing none, we'll move along to the mayor's report. Mr. Mayor.
Yes, let's see. Turnkey Doug Stoll had recent surgery, as did Turnkey Jim Evan Road. They're both recovering. Officer Jonathan Joseph and his wife are happy to report the birth of their first child. So congratulations, Officer Jonathan Joseph. This past month we had 506 complaints. I'll just read a couple of them. One is assisting other police, 33. Disorderly conduct, 17. Domestic, 16. And medical emergencies, 38. Couple of little announcements. The dining on Wednesday and Thursday nights. Most of the restaurants are green. I talked to quite a few of them last night. But once it gets below 55 degrees, or they know it's going to be below that, that's probably their limit of coming out. Next week looks good. It's going to be in the 70s again on Wednesday and Thursday as of right now. It may change, but that's what they would like to do. Many of them are sharing ideas with each other. There's some lamps that I've never seen. They look like lamps in a bedroom, but they're putting them above and the heat comes down, so that's helping some. And they are, again, sharing ideas. They're not just there for themselves, they're helping each other somewhat. Also, the Veterans Day Parade will not be a parade this year. It looks like it's going to be a ceremony. It will be at the courthouse as of now, 11/11, at 11/11, when it's at 11. We expect the ceremony to be about 45 minutes. We'll have masks, we'll have spacing. We have a special guest this year. His name is Roland Skarnicki. He's 97, he's a World War II veteran, and he plays a harmonica like you would think he was in college. When he plays it, he gets a little excited about it. So he'll be somewhat entertaining. Not that we're trying to entertain him on Veterans Day, but that will be somewhat entertaining. So everybody will have to wear masks and have spacing there. We will have a couple of officers there just to, I guess, send a message that you need to comply with the masks and, again, distancing. So that's what we're looking at right now. We're going to tweak it a little bit to make sure it's a safe environment. If it happens to rain, we will be doing it in the media theater and have, Peter and I were just talking before, I know they're allowed to have 25%, and we're allowed to have 100 people in there. We will not have 100 people in there because we would make it much less if it happens to rain. So, any questions?
Are there any questions for the mayor at this time? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll move along to the council committee reports. We'll start off as we normally do with Councilman Robinson, Properties, Public Works, and Fire.
Okay, I do not have anything legislatively this evening. We talked a lot about fire, but I will go over the fire report for the month of September. 26 fire calls, 167 emergency management services calls, One little note that I thought was interesting is we were called to media playground to extract someone from a piece of playground. So the kids can get in and they can't get out. But once again, our guys with the yellow fire trucks are quick to get down here and resolve the situation. I believe that our ballot box has now been set up and is installed. So anybody who is interested in using the Delaware County approved.
Is it open yet?
It's still locked.
It's still locked? Really?
The security cameras is installed.
Okay. I apologize. It's almost, but not quite. As soon as we know, we'll get it on social media and on our website. A couple other quick things is bulk trash. We are encountering a fair amount of our residents putting out trash that would be considered bulk trash on our regular trash pickups. Things such as doors, exercise equipment. Things of that nature cannot fit in the back of a trash truck, and therefore they cannot get picked up. We do have a bulk trash once a month. If you're interested, please contact Borough Hall to set up an appointment so that our public works people can come by and pick it up. We are going to start to tag some of this large items that are left out, asking the people to take them back in, go through the bulk trash system, and if not, they would be considered, a crime of some sort. Last but not least, it is getting to be that time of year with leaves. We're asking our residents to, either A, bag your leaves so that they can be taken and used as compost, and or put the leaves in piles so that when our public works department comes through that they are easily pulled up into our machines. By just simply raking your leaves out into the street and into the sidewalk, what occurs is the first minimal rain we have, the leaves come and go down into stormwater, into our stormwater system. That is one of the areas that we're trying to stop from occurring. So ground bagging, or at least put it in piles so our public works people can pick it up. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Councilman Robinson at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on to Councilwoman Lisa Johnson, who is present before the meeting by telephone. She will discuss any MBA, historic, public safety, and civil service matters.
Thank you. The first item on my agenda is around the accessible pedestrian signals. This has been a long time coming, but I'm tickled to say that we're going to go out for bid on the accessible pedestrian crossing signals. These are signals that help people, it helps everyone, it helps all pedestrians actually, but it also specifically beneficial to the blind who can who hear the signals and can go when it's safe. These signals are going to be attached on the intersections of Baltimore Avenue, Providence Road, and State Street. So I make a motion to authorize the advertisement of bids for the accessible pedestrian signal.
Second.
Thank you, Lisa. The motion's been made and has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of authorizing the advertisement of bids for accessible pedestrian signals, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Great. And the second item I have is a mass gathering permit for the Media Business Authority. This is to continue outdoor dining through the end of the year. We discussed this during our workshop, and so I'd like to ratify the approval of the mass gathering permit for outdoor dining on Wednesdays and Thursdays from now till the end of the year.
The motion has been made. Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion on the motion?
Quick question, Lisa. On State Street currently, there are signs that reflect no parking after 5 o'clock. The mass gathering permit does say from 5 to 11:15. Is 5 o'clock when cars can no longer park, or is cars going to be requested, shall I say, to move prior to 5 o'clock?
No. The setup time to do that starts at 5 o'clock. The event doesn't start till 6.
All right,
So they need
so
to
keep,
move by 5, so no parking after 5 o'clock.
okay, so we won't start to ask cars to get taken off the street until after 5.
So,
Correct?
All right, so I need clarification on that. We've had a lot of miscommunication with that.
Councilman Dixon, did you have a question?
Well, I do. What about this is going, what about the other small businesses? It's time for the shopping and what have you. If you've got the street.
Sorry, what about the other small businesses? I didn't hear the rest.
Well, once Thanksgiving is here, we're definitely into the shopping, so you are going much longer.
It's really difficult to hear you there.
Yeah, I fade out.
I think that Lisa, I think that she's expressing a concern about what impact this might have to retail businesses once we get into the holiday season, which is nearly upon us.
I can't actually say. It probably depends on the business. And depends on how busy the restaurants might be and how willing people are willing to sit and eat outside in November and December. So it's probably hard to tell exactly how it's going to affect the retail.
Will retailers be encouraged to participate those evenings if they choose to do so?
Oh, sure. Always. Always.
Any other questions for Lisa concerning this motion? All right, then I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the mass gathering permit application for the Medium Business Authority to extend the outdoor dining season through the end of the year on Wednesdays and Thursday nights, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Does anyone have any questions for Councilwoman Lisa Dixon at this time?
Johnson.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Which one's that?
Does anyone have any questions for Lisa Johnson at this time? The answer was there appears not to be any questions for Councilwoman Lisa Johnson. Then we'll move along then to Councilman Amy Johnson, Fair Trade, Farmers Market, Shade Tree, and the Environmental Advisory Council.
Thank you. We heard from Fair Trade this evening, which was lovely. And just one quick announcement from the Media Farmers Market. As I always remind everyone, the market is every Sunday from 10 to 1 on Edgemont Street between Front and State. And the Media Food Bank is taking donations every Sunday at the market. And there's a current shopping list on the Media Farmers Market website for you to review with very specific items that the food bank is completely out of, including mayo and honey and rice and olive oil and a whole other list. So for those of you who would like to donate to the food bank, please do so this Sunday and every Sunday moving forward at the Media Farmers Market. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Councilwoman and Vice President Amy Johnson? Hearing none, we'll move along then to my portion of the agenda, Community Development, Historic Architectural Review Board, and the Media Arts Council. During this portion, Councilwoman and Vice President Amy Johnson will be presiding. I have 3 items for action tonight. The first concerns a lot line change at 34 West 8th Street. This month is one of those unusual months where the Planning Commission meets after Council has its workshop session. So this is a matter that has not yet been vetted by the Council, but it is fairly straightforward. This involves an adjustment of lot lines between 2 adjoining properties. The 2 properties have a common owner. The owner would like, the 2 properties are at 34 West 8th Street and 733 North Olive. And the owner of the properties would like to modify the property lines so that the 8th Street property is squared off. It has regular borders. At the present time, it does not have regular borders. This application will not have any effect upon any utilities or upon any stormwater issues. It is merely administrative. Planning Commission heard this at its meeting early this month, and they voted unanimously. Well, it was an advisory vote because I don't think that we had a quorum there, but all 3 members of the Planning Commission who were present favored that council not oppose this request. And the Delaware County Planning Department also issued an opinion that does not oppose the lot line requested. The 2 lots that will be created by the lot line change will be fully zoning compliant. So I make the motion that we approve the lot line change at 34 West 8th Street.
Second that.
Motion's been made and seconded, and any discussion on the motion?
Couple of questions. You said that the planning commission moved that we do not oppose. That's kind of the language that normally is in a variance procedure. This isn't a variance, is it?
It's not a variance.
It's just like a lot line adjustment. So
I'm tweaking the language because they didn't have a quorum.
all right. And then for Mr. Scott. In this case, the 2 properties are owned by the same person. What would be the difference if the 2 properties were owned by 2 different people? Couldn't they still do it, or would it just be called something different?
Would be called the same thing. It's easier that the same person owns both lots because it's consensual. If 2 different parties owned it, one may not agree to this. I like the squaring of lots. I think it's a good thing. I think that when you have unusual property lines, it leads to disputes. So I think I regard this as a fair.
Are you saying that a person could submit a plan takings if their neighbor's property?
They need consent.
Yeah,
that's
right.
what I'm saying.
Okay, so the fact that the two properties owned by the same person is only material to the extent that it provides automatic consent.
Right.
Okay, got it, thanks, that's all.
Any other questions? Okay, those in favor of approving lot line change to 34 West 8th Street, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
Lisa, was your vote in favor?
Yes, sorry, couldn't hear me.
Item number 2 is approval of a proposal from McMahon Engineering for engineering services related to the CMAC pedestrian improvement project. Those of you who have been following us for the past couple of years know that one project that we have been husbanding along for at that time has been the connecting of our sidewalk network. And we received a good chunk of money to help connect certain areas of our sidewalk network that are not connected. The money comes through PennDOT, and as a result, we have to follow all PennDOT regulations. And as a further result, we need to procure engineering services to make sure that the sidewalks, as they are being installed, are being done according to PennDOT and federal standard. McMahon Engineering would like to do this work, and they are recommended by our engineer. The amount of their services for this part of the project is $56,250. So I'm making the form of a motion that we grant the engineering services, that we approve the proposal from McMahon Engineering for their engineering services with regard to the CMAC pedestrian improvement project in the amount of $56,250.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the proposal from McMahon Engineering for engineering services related to CMAC pedestrian improvement project, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
coming to that time of year when many things get done, big and small. The next item is one of the smaller items that we take care of on a yearly basis. Every year, we award a contract for sidewalk maintenance throughout the borough in connection with borough-owned properties. We are responsible as the borough, primarily responsible for the sidewalks and the properties that the borough owns. Owners of private property are primarily responsible for maintenance of the sidewalks in front of their property. This year, we received several bids for that contract, and the lowest bid from a qualified contractor was from Moore, M-O-R, Construction Services, in the amount of $2,794.25. They have received the blessing, if I may use that word, from our engineer.
If I may add, Mr. President?
Yes, please.
This contract is a maintenance contract, and there are 15 individual bid items. And this contract is generally an open-ended contract, so we can walk around with the contractor and point to things and say, this needs to be repaired, this needs to be repaired. This contractor had the overall lowest summation of bid quantities, which means it's the most value for the work that's being done. So the overall contract value isn't necessarily the summation of the bid quantities as was shown, but my recommendation would be to award the contract consistent with the individual bid item prices, so that the overall scope of the contract is variable depending on what the borough would like to see done. So if it's work in front of the borough complex or work in front of the Plum Street Mall, or wherever the borough should choose to have this work done. So the more appropriate language, if the motion is to go forward, is to award it to be consistent with the bid prices submitted to the line item. It's really amending.
Okay, so let me take another shot at it and see if I get a nod of the head or a shake of the head from our engineer. I move that we award the bid for the sidewalk maintenance contract for borough-owned properties to M-O-R Construction Services, consistent with the bid item prices that have been submitted to our engineer.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion, questions? Okay, let's see if I can get this right. All those in favor of awarding the bid for sidewalk maintenance at borough properties to our construction to be consistent with the bid item prices submitted to our engineer, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
All right, well, that brings around my portion of the agenda. Unless there are any questions for me from other members of council, we'll move along then to Councilman Boyer for Recreation and Board of Health.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few quick announcements. The first one, unfortunately, there will be no senior luncheon this year. Well, the thought of putting a bunch of seniors in a room together during this time is probably not very wise, so we'll have to postpone it. Maybe we can do something in the spring, but I don't know that things will be better at that point, but there is no senior luncheon. At its normal time, it's usually the beginning of November, so we're not able to do that, unfortunately, this year. There are two Halloween events, both of which are, it's kind of virtual, the other one is completely virtual. There will be a Zoom Halloween party on Saturday, October 24th, that's a week before Halloween. This is sponsored by REC. It's at, I believe, at 6:30. If you're interested, I need to contact Paula, and I think something like an hour before the event, you will be emailed a Zoom code, and then you'll be able to get online and participate. Silly Joe will be emceeing. There will be a costume contest, prizes for different categories. So you can see the details on the newsletter. But again, you need to contact Paula at the borough in order to register if you want to participate in the Zoom party. The other event that REC is sponsoring is a house decorating contest. In the spirit of Halloween, if you're going to decorate and you'd like your house judged, again, you can contact Paula. The judges are going to go around on, I believe it's the night before Halloween, but you have to, I would say, check the newsletter for that. And we'll be awarding a first, second, and third prize to the best decorated houses. So decorate your house if you want to be judged. then let us know and we'll look at your house. You can also send a picture, but I think the judges are planning on driving around to the registered houses on Friday evening and conclude the judging that way. So again, we're trying to be creative. It's difficult to do the usual events that REC does because we're not permitted to have a lot of people together wisely. So this is the best we can do, but hopefully it will still allow us to participate in the Halloween season. And that's my report.
Thank you. Does anyone from council have any questions for Councilman Boyer at this time?
Yeah.
Yes.
We are on our social media and our website referencing CDC guidelines with regards to Halloween, going out for Halloween. So I encourage people to take a look at that.
Right.
I'm not sure what, all families are doing. I mean, it's at least my intent to at least try to make sure the kids have something. So I plan on putting candy in individual bags, keeping things that are distance from myself and my family. But I personally am hoping some of the kids can at least mask up and then Halloween mask up and get out and have a little bit of enjoyment. But there's some really outstanding guidelines on our social media and on our website. So hopefully we'll see some kids out there. I mean, it truly is I'll use a 70s term, bummer, where these kids can't go out and have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up because that's the other thing. Obviously, trick-or-treating is, I don't know that we can officially ban it, but certainly it's going to be very different. And like Paul said, I am planning to do something contactless or very limited contact early in the evening. And I would think it's up to the individual families and what they would do about that. And again, look at the CDC guidelines, right? Be safe, and if you're going to trick-or-treat, do it wisely. And my suggestion is do it early because I think a lot of people will be there for the little ones early in the evening and then probably wrap up and maybe not go as late as we should do. So.
I think the guidelines reflect 5:30 to 8 or something.
Yeah, that seems really reasonable. Yeah, we usually might have a candy before that anyway. So anyway, so be careful, be safe, and if there are any questions, consult the social media page and see what the guidelines are. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move along then to Councilman Williamson, Finance and Library.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll start out with a few announcements, like I usually do. First, starting out with this year's budget, the 2020 budget. If you've followed these meetings, you know that the medium borough's budget has not been dramatically impacted by the COVID epidemic, but it has been affected somewhat. Mostly because economic activity in State Street was so depressed for so long that the parking fees that we harvest from that activity have been diminished. That's probably the most significant impact, but the other kinds of revenues we collect. At this point, at the end of September, we would normally expect to be at about 75% of our revenue. We find ourselves at about 67%, which, given everything, is not too bad, really. And then on the other end, on expenses, the borough staff has been good about reining in expenses to date. And at the end of September, the expenses were only at 62% of the budget, so there was still a 5% positive swing between those two numbers, which is excellent. However, I don't want to give you too much false rosiness in the sense that those numbers did not include the significant check we wrote toward the end to pay for the pension contribution for the year. So by October's number, I expect them to be much closer. But given everything that's been going on, I think that's pretty good results. The 2021 budget process has begun. The staff did an excellent job of putting together a draft budget, including all the particular line items. And as we do every year, we've held hearings. We held hearings the past 2 days with internal department heads and external nonprofits that were interested in the internal cases of capital items and in the external cases of general operating support. So we've heard from all of them. There's a lot for the Finance Committee still to consider before we make any recommendations to all council, and the Finance Committee is meeting next Monday to consider that presentation will make to you. So that's where we are on the 2021 budget. Now to my action items. Unless you have some questions.
I do.
Okay.
You were referencing that expenses are down, and I'm comfortable in saying that part of the reason the expenses are down is somewhat that we were in a hibernation period for several months. I know there's several significant projects that were planned for 2020. You know, a lot of work to be done at the municipal complex here, things of that nature. Are we going to do anything different? I know we do a zero balance budget. So are we going to like move some of these funds from 2020 that we had allocated and put them in 2021 budget?
I think you're mixing capital and general operating budgets somehow. In a way
That's what you're saying. Our expenses were down, and we had funds in to do some projects at the complex this year that weren't done because we weren't here for such a long period. So are they?
You should consider those funds released to be doing deferred maintenance on the complex. If you considered them sequestered due to COVID, you should consider them released.
All right. What I'm saying is if they're not used in 2020, is use it or lose it, or is it going to be moved over to 2021?
It's use it or lose it. That's the way it works. And it doesn't mean if it disappears, all you have to do is make sure it reappears in next year's budget.
Mr. Senior, please make sure it all reappears in next year's budget.
That's essentially what he did.
Okay.
He carried everything over, and that's the discussion that the Finance Committee needs to make is to what extent are we comfortable carrying a lot of things over, and to what extent we want to modify. And we as a committee don't want to give you something unless we're comfortable with it. Okay, so that's
good now.
Okay, action items. One that's dear to myself and I think Councilwoman Johnson's heart is number one, where we're going to be releasing a bid or accepting a bid for the 5th and Brumal Street Park construction. We received 8 bids, and the engineering firm McCormick Taylor reviewed them and authorized them as valid bids, and suggested that we hire Alfred G. Cipollone Jr. and Sons for a bid of $345,000. That's the lowest bid, and the range at the highest end was $542,000. So it was a fairly good range, and I might add that that number is within the budget we projected for the project. And the last item I would add is that 50% of the cost will be paid by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania due to the good grant work of our borough staff. So with that, I move acceptance of that bid.
Second.
Motion's been made, it has been seconded. Is there any discussion concerning the motion?
I didn't hear the name of the...
Alfred Cipollone and Sons.
Okay, that's all.
Any other questions concerning the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of awarding the bid for park enhancements at 5th and Brumal Streets to Alfred Cipollone and Sons for $345,000, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. My next action item also relates to open space, but in this case, planning. The borough is currently engaged in a comprehensive open space and recreation plan, for which we received some grant funding from the borough, from the Delaware County. The award was for $17,500. That was 25% of the cost of the work. We have to sign a grant agreement in order to receive the money. So I move for approval of the grant agreement as required under the Delco Greenways program.
Motion to debate has been seconded. Do we have a second? We do have a second. Any questions concerning the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the grant agreement for the Delco Greenways program for the open space plan in the amount of $17,500, please say aye. 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 Those opposed? Councilwoman Lisa Johnson voted aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Before I do the last item, I just want to mention that this particular plan actually had a very lively Zoom meeting this on Monday. All the meetings were lively, but the steering committee is very strong. The consultants have been doing a good job of managing all the very strong opinions of our very educated citizens on what they see as the priorities for open space and meetings. I've been very proud of what's been happening at the committee level there. Lastly, and most prosaic, is approving the payment of bills for September. Drawn from the general fund was $659,742.78. From the recreation fund, $62.90. Really, Kevin, must answer. And from the capital fund, $144,866.20. I move approval of September's bills.
Motion has been made and has been seconded. Any discussion concerning the motion? I will mention that although this is a prosaic motion in the sense that it's something that we do on a month-to-month basis, it certainly is meaningful.
Yes, it's meaningful, especially to those who invoices get paid as a result.
Yes, indeed. All righty then. All those in favor of approving payment of the September bills from the general, recreation, and capital funds as specified by Councilman Williamson, please say aye. 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 Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
And for those dozens of you that may be watching tonight, please don't forget the Media of Providence Free Library. They are open. They are getting 20 to 50 visitors on a regular basis every day on the few hours that they can maintain, and yet they cannot do their principal fundraiser this year, the book sale. Please think of them when you're writing your charitable checks for this year. Thank you.
Peter, I have a question for you. With regard to the Fish and Brumal Park, is there a schedule by which you expect the work to start and to be completed?
I can respond to that, Mr. President. Naturally, there will be a quick timetable and hopefully a very quick turnaround to get the contracts executed. So the contractor has to submit a series of paperwork. It has to be signed by the borough, but I intend to hold the pre-construction meeting as quickly as possible because naturally, as we're aware, there was some work that was done and I want to continue that work. So continue the remediation work out there. So I'll work with Chippewa to make sure that they get boots on the ground as quickly as possible.
All right, thank you. Okay then, we'll move along then to Councilman Dixon for personnel, public relations, and historical archives matters.
Yes, I don't know, can you hear me fine?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. So we'll start with some personnel situations. First, several months ago, in response to an event regarding Sergeant Robert Carroll, Media Borough Council took action and demoted and terminated Sergeant Carroll. Sergeant Carroll, as is his right, did not agree with Council's decision, and under the union contract, the FOP filed a grievance. The grievance was heard by an arbitrator, and a date was set for arbitration while the parties continued to negotiate, and just this week have reached an agreement to settle Sergeant Carroll's grievance. I move to ratify the release concerning the FOP grievance involving Sergeant Robert Carroll.
Motion has been made. Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second the motion.
So now is the time for us to question and comment should we wish to. I will just add that as a clarification, the arbitration was scheduled to be heard. It actually wasn't held, but it was scheduled to be heard this month. All right, do we have any questions or comments before I call the motion? Hearing none. I will call the question. All those who favor ratifying the release concerning the FOP grievance involving Sergeant Robert Carroll, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
The motion passes 6-1.
Okay, second, personnel. After 3 months of evaluating more than 20 well-qualified resumes and moving through the interview process, Borough Council has identified a borough manager. I move to hire Brittany Portman as borough manager.
Second.
Can I mention the start date?
Yes, please.
With the start of November 2nd of 2020.
It'll be a very busy week.
Yes. Yes.
Motion's been made, it has been seconded. Is there any discussion concerning the motion before I call the question? I'd like to offer some comments. As Councilman Dixon has mentioned, this has been a months-long process in which not just Borough Council, but staff members and department heads have looked at many resumes, and we were involved in several rounds of interviews. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the members of the Borough Administrative Staff and department heads who participated in that process. It was a lengthy process, it was a healthy process, and as I mentioned before, despite that added burden of doing that work, the wheels of the borough did not fall off. It was, I think we owe all of you a great debt of gratitude for the work that you have accomplished over the past several months, keeping things going. After Jeff Smith left his position here, and during the time that you're seeking a new manager. So thank you very much for all of your work. It speaks well not only of Jeff Smith's efforts to build a deep bench here at the borough of very well qualified and committed persons to help with the administration of the borough, but also to your talents and your commitment as well. So thank you very much. We have a motion to appoint Brittany Portman as the next borough manager starting November 2. It has been seconded. I'll call the question. All those in favor of appointing Brittany Portman as the next borough manager, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
The motion passes 6-1. Does anyone have any, Councilman Dixon, do you have anything else for us this
Yes.
evening?
Well, I do.
Excellent.
The archives, historic archives have been busy. That's the way to put it. And I know a lot of people are interested in their photographs and what have you. And they just got $300 from helping out. Well, they're going to be writing a book with media pictures of important people, and the book will be published about media. So that's good. And they got they did 12 photos. They got them $300. Also, they did participate with Delaware County Institute for Science. They're doing a reorganization, and the archives are helping, and they need some volunteers, and so the Delaware County Institute does. And also, starting next month, I like this part, they're going to be featuring some historic person from media in with Mooney, with the media media borough newsletter. So we're going to feature maybe that one of the names on the list was Bill Whitaker, but he's not, he's not that old. because we want to video, but if you've got some ideas for some people that they should focus, feature, let them know, and Adam and the crew would be glad to hear and work on it. But that's a good thing. Also, it seems like we've got some really great, well, if you've got some photos to share, but we've got some really good photos there that people do want. The other thing is the music theater is doing a Halloween. They're doing Halloween Spooktacular. It's viral. Virtual, I didn't mean viral, I'm sorry. Forgive me, but they're doing one on the 31st, and they're taking your photos and your videos, yes, and they need to be in by the 25th, but that's another bit of things for the youngsters and parents. You can come up with your own video or your own costume picture and be part of their program on the 31st. That's it.
Thank you, Councilman Dixon. Does anyone have any questions for Councilman Dixon? We've really got to save the meat of the evening to the last. Any questions for Sarah? Just an observation, it wasn't so long ago that labeling something viral was a really good thing. Times change, and so do the meanings of words. All right then, we have our second opportunity for public comment and privilege of the floor. Is there anyone here who wishes to address council? Please tell us your name, where you live, and what's on your mind. We appear not to have any takers. Before we leave for the evening, it is my duty to announce that before the start of tonight's meeting, we did hold executive session in which we discussed personnel as well as litigation matters. All right then, it is now time to consider adjourning for the evening. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously.